All right, so the next step on my chairs is to make the front leg blanks, and those are pretty simple. They're just 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches by 18 inches long. So all I need to do is, I like to give myself a little wiggle room to square them up, but I'm gonna mark out 18.5. Rough cut them to length, and then final cut them to length while they're together, and then I'll rip them down, and I'll rip them again to get them down to 1.5 inches instead of running them through the planer, just so it's not as much turning into dust. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to take this to my crosscut sled, and then I'll do some ripping. All right, so you can see I've got a very rough side, got one straight edge, and a flat plain side that I can use as S2S. I'm going to rip down into 1.5 inch strips. Should get 2 of those, and then this last chunk I might be able to get a couple stretchers out of. So we'll see what we've got left over after the 2 1.5s. For these guys, I'm going to take it in 2 passes, just so I'm not overburdening this blade. So I'm going to drop it down and then raise it up for probably 3 cuts to get through it, just to make sure I'm not pinching or anything like that. So. All right, I was able to get 2 legs out of that. One of these has some weird voids in it, so hopefully when I do my tapers I can get under that. Otherwise I might end up having to replace these pieces. But otherwise they look good. The grain's pretty straight. And I also got 1 definite stretcher. It still needs to be ripped to frontal width to get rid of this bark or whatever that is. And another offcut that is maybe usable as a stretcher, and if not, then I'll use it for dominoes or something. So instead I've got a just a 4/4 board that I need to plane a straight edge on, and then I can rip some pieces off to use as stretchers for the chairs. So I'm going to plane this with my Veritas low angle or bevel up pointer plane real quick, and then take it over to the table saw to rip a 2-inch section for a stretcher. Almost there. Just want to make sure I've got a continuous pass on the whole thing. Alright, that should be good to go. Let's check it for square. Close. And I can run that over the table saw. All right, from here, so I've got my legs. I can set those aside, but I'm working on these stretchers. I've got plans that just say, how long I need a piece and what angles I need, but I figured it would be helpful to have a template with my angles actually cut on the sides. So got this one with 12 inches and 15 degrees on each side. So that's my back piece, and I had this junky one that was not full thickness the whole way through, but I think if I go on this thicker side, I can maintain most of the thickness and have plenty to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold this on there and mark those angles out. And I don't really feel like I need more accuracy than a pencil for these pieces. There's always other inconsistencies that add up to more, and so I think it's probably okay. So I'm just write 15 on both of those to have something to refer to later. Then secondly, I had this other board that had a little bit of run out and some strange grain here. So I don't want this to be my side piece because that's where the structure really needs to be. But I think it's fine for the front. So I'm going to make this my 14.5 inch 90-degree board. And this edge is already at 90 degrees. So I should just be able to cut over here, right 90, call that one done. And then I've got this long board that's my best piece of the 3. And I need 2 of this piece. One side has 5 degrees and the other has 20. The best way I can represent this is I took these 4 little pieces of offcut, cut some squares out, and I'm going to use my bench lines to help lay them out. So my legs are twisted out 15 degrees. So I can put the backrest here, or the back stretcher here, put these blocks on. So see, the legs will be twisted out at an angle. So to compensate and get the taper out to the trapezoid shape I want, I've got 20 degrees on this piece, and then 5 on that to bring it back to 90 for the front rest. So then this 90-degree piece can go right there, and I only have one of these templates, but basically that brings everything into the lengths that it needs to have for the piece. So this is the last one I need to lay out. I need 2 of the 5-degree, 20-degree ones, and this is 12 3/4 long. So I'm going to take this board and try to be conservative with my layout. And make sure I write my notes. So 5 and 20. And this one can be the same. 20 and 5. Okay, so next I need to take that over to my table saw to cut those angles out, and then we'll be ready for joinery. And now I'm just going to take this one that has some inconsistencies of the thickness and clean up this face, and then I'll call it good enough. I'm going to take my marking gauge and just find a point that's within that area that needs to get shaved off and transfer that across the whole face. And I'll start by taking more room off of that side and marking on both sides. Okay. And I'll start with the thick side first. And just watch my lines. Almost there, pretty even. Now I'm just gonna shave evenly until I clean off the rest of that junk. Done. And now, shave off a little bit on this guy. There we go. All right, so here are my finished pieces ready to mark their domino locations. There's my 90, my double 15, my 5 and 20s, 2 of them, and then my leg bones. So now I just need to mark where the dominoes are going to go for all of these. So for the 90, they just need to go on both on the same side, and I'm going to pick a reference side, and I'll mark ref and draw an arrow to the side that's my reference side, and I'm always going to reference off of that. And otherwise, I'm just going 1 inch in. These didn't end up making it to the full 2 inch thickness; they're just a little shy. So as long as I mark from the same side, we'll be okay. So that's 1. For all of the other pieces, I'll do the same, say ref, but then I'm going to be doing the dominoes from the obtuse side. So from my reference side, I'll draw my lines for my dominoes. Done. Ref. And 1 inch in. And this one's a parallel grain, so I've got to flip it correctly. Ref. 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 Okay. That one's done. And this one. Ref. 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 And if I haven't said it already, ref is for reference. Okay. That's all my stretchers marked out. Now this is my nastiest piece. Let's see, I think I want this to be my top, probably, and this can get shaved down. This definitely needs to be the inside, and I think this needs to be my inside as well. So that means that I need this side to get a domino, and then this side to get a domino. And that will put the stretcher at the top here, and this will be my visible side. So that's ready to go. And then finally, this one. So I think I want this to be inside, and probably this inside. And I think this needs to be the foot, so I'm going to put my markings on this side. There we go. So now I'm ready to cut dominoes into all of these. So last time we cut all of our pieces to the correct angles and lengths and marked out where the dominoes need to be plunged. So you can see that little shiny line right there. And now I need to reference my depth and angle chart. So for my 90-degree angles, I'm going to be plunging at a offset depth of 20. So if I were to put that a 90-degree thing, then I slide this guy down to the 20 setting and adjust my fence depth to such. Basically, I need to make sure I reference my chart for each of these so that I don't accidentally plunge through something, because that has happened on some of my test pieces here. But anyway, this is just a chart I came up with for this particular chair. This is my scribble scratch plan. Definitely not the final look of the chair, but I've got my angles for the trapezoidal tapering of the chair from front to back, and the angling of all the parts, and then my chart that I reference. So just to read these out loud, I do 20mm offset for the 90, 85 or 5 degree off of 90. I do also at 20 because it still functions. For the 70-degree angles, I go to the minimum depth, and I don't think that that is actually marked. I just go all the way down. Same for the 75, and then for the legs, for the stretcher portion of the back legs, which we've already done, I do 28 as the offset setting, and then a max for the back stretcher also. And then the legs, the 28 offset will happen for the front legs as well. So when I plunge these, that's what they will get, and that's what they got on the back legs as well. So that will help make sure that they match up where they're supposed to if the offsets are the same. And yeah, that's about it. So I'll have to adjust the angle of the domino for every part that has a different angle. So I'll do all my 20s at once, I'll do all my 5s at once, and I'll do all my 90s and 15s, at once. So that's the next step. All right, so one thing to note on these guys, my dominoes do intersect a little bit. Let's see. If I take my dummy domino and stick it in there, you should be able to see it from the other side, just a little bit. So I'll either need to nip off the corner and just give it a little chamfer, or trim off some length on one side. All right, so now we've got all of our parts. So these back legs still need some tapering and final shaping just to make them a little prettier, but they're functional right now. But all of our parts have their mortises. So we've got domino slots in our front legs. We've got the back slat mortises hand chopped. 2 mortises cut into the back legs. 1 back stretcher that has 15 degrees on both sides. And something I wanted to show was this front edge is extremely thin at the front of that mortise, but that's not something you really have to worry about, because it's supported with the fibers beneath it. So this tenon and the mortise underneath is going in at this angle so that the domino can penetrate into the meat of the stick. And so this thin edge, once it's glued onto this tenon, is going to be reinforced. So we've got to be gentle with it a little bit right now, but it's got more meat underneath it than it seems, and when there's glue on it, it will be well supported. Same thing for these 20-degree ones. They're very thin at this edge, but they thicken up quite quickly inside. And that offset had to be so close to the edge so that we didn't accidentally penetrate all the way through and ruin our piece by putting the joinery in the wrong place. The other ones I tried to go closer to the middle. They're not quite centered, but they have plenty of meat on both sides. And then lastly, the legs had, as I showed earlier, intersecting mortises, so we'll have to watch out for that. And that's on the front and the back.